Bonjour tout le monde. All right, another week of grammar. Here we go. First things first, we're going to learn a new verb, payer. Now, payer, which means to pay, has a stem changing thing that it does, and it's actually optional, but it's the way that I've seen payer written for my entire time studying French, so that's the way I'm going to teach it to you. Je paye, tu payes, il paye. So you can see in all of the singular forms then that I is being retained instead of a Y, and then it goes E, ES, E, the way you would expect an ER verb too. Then we move into the new form, which takes back that Y. Nous payons, vous payez, also takes on the Y. But whenever you get to third person plural, you end up back with an I, elle paye. We call this a choux verb a lot of times in French because if you look at the shape of the verbs that have the I in them, they can make up a shoe or a boot or a fancy high heel, whichever you prefer to see there. And so sometimes that helps individuals to make connections with what they can expect from verbs in different times. So that's what that is. Another new verb, essayer, is to try, and it follows the same pattern. J'essaie, tu essaies, il essaie. Nous essayons, vous essayez, elle essaye. So what you can see here is, oops, this should have an apostrophe, and this E shouldn't be here, right? Because these should be linked together. But more importantly, what you'll see is this follows exactly the same pattern, and it follows the regularities of an ER verb. This is just something that you're going to have to watch out for. There are some verbs with tricky things that they do, and so this is one of those verbs, essayer. All right, so we've already covered le passé composé with avoir, right? And we know how to say things like I walked, or I ran, or I was there, or, so many other things that we've talked through in the past tense. But there's more that the past tense, in terms of the passé composé, can do. Not only is it avoir plus a past participle, but you could also do this with être for specific verbs. So you'll be able to say more when you know être is the way to conjugate certain verbs in the past tense. In the past tense, past participles must agree with être, passé composé. Now what that means is, if I am writing j'ai fait, right, I did that, I don't have to change fait. Fait is the same for all of the forms. But je suis allé, I do have to manage that, and I have to say je suis allé, but when I'm writing it, I have to write an extra E because I'm late. So it matches in number and gender. So let's talk through some past participles first. You know these already, right? Manger, vendu, et fini. These are the three main categories that you'll see whenever you are changing verbs, right? And so whenever you change verbs into the past tense, these are the patterns that they will tend to follow. And this is how they are spelled. So pay close attention to make sure that you end up at the past tense and not simply telling me an infinitive after avoir. More past participles, because while these are how the regular past participles come together, there are a lot of irregular past participles as well. For example, être becomes été, avoir becomes eu, prendre becomes pris, apprendre, to learn, becomes appris, comprendre, to understand, becomes compris. Boire becomes bu. lire becomes nu. Vouloir, to want, becomes voulu. Mettre becomes mis. And faire is fait. These are some of the most common ones you'll come across as you are talking in the past, so it's important to know these past participles. All right, so what makes an être verb an être verb? Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't there when they made the rules, so I am probably not your best authority on why these are the être verbs, but I can give you some rationale to help remember them. This is what this weird picture that I put up on the screen is. It's la maison d'être, and so the house of être. And the way that I like to think about être verbs is they are verbs that happen in this house or around this house. And so naître, which is to be born, and mourir, which is to die. I guess once upon a time, you were born and you died in your own home, correct? And so those are two of these verbs. Devenir, to become. You become something in your home. You climb the stairs, you monte, or you go down the stairs, descend. Perhaps you stay, you reste, rester. By your house, you are going to arriver and entrer. You'll passer in front of, right? You will also aller, sortir, and partir. You'll also come home, venir. You'll come back home, revenir. You'll return home, rentrer, retourner. Now, this is just one way of understanding the maison d'être. One of the very popular ways of talking through this and understanding which verbs take up être, you will see that they are in a list in Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp, which is a way of organizing these in a mnemonic. There are other ways of organizing être. This is just my preferred way. Whatever makes it stick for you that these verbs take être in order to convey past meaning is what you need to do. So just work with perhaps this picture or create your own picture to develop this understanding that these verbs are all going to be put in the past tense with être every time. You never say j'ai allé. It's always je suis allé. It's always je suis resté. Je suis tombé. These are things that need to start clicking in your mind. And so thinking about writing them out or working with them in that way can be really helpful too. So continue looking at this picture and studying this picture. I can send it to you as just a sheet if you'd prefer as well. Just shoot me an email. Now, it's great that I know that all of these verbs, that all of these verbs take être, but I still have to change them into their past participles. And that's what this sheet gives you. It's that devenir becomes devenu. And it also provides you with a definition of what each of those are. And this is in the order that I was telling you about before. You can see Dr. Mrs. Vandertramp. 2 P's, right? In this setup here. And so that's another way to make sure that you've memorized all of these verbs that take this. What's most important, though, for your system of learning is that you start to internalize the sound of je suis parti, je suis allé, je suis rentré. Because if that's what you hear when you think about these verbs, then you'll automatically go into using être with these verbs much more readily than having to sit down and list out all of the verbs that take être and think about it before you can continue speaking. And you'll see here that many of these past participles are very irregular. The ones with stars, I believe, in this table are irregular, and so devenir becomes devenu. Revenir becomes revenu. Mourir becomes mort. Retourner becomes retourné. Sortir is sorti. Venir becomes venu. Arriver becomes arrivé. Naître is né. You may have heard a song around Christmas time that is Il est né le divin enfant, which translates He is born the divine child. So, il est né. He is born. Je suis né. I was born, right? There you go. And then descendre becomes descendu. Entrer is entré. Rentrer is rentré. Tomber is tombé. Rester is resté. Aller is aller. Monter is monter. Partir is parti. And passer is passé. It's very important that as you continue to work through these adverbs, that you internalize these spellings and these connections for yourself. We'll continue working on this during class next week. For now, I'll just leave you with an example. Je suis sorti. Tu es sorti. Il est sorti. Nous sommes sortis. Vous êtes sortis. Ils sont sortis. Now you see here, I've made an agreement in plurality, but these are masculine, so they don't need anything else. However, with a feminine example, je suis sorti with this E. So for all of us, we need that E, all female class. Tu es sorti. Again, you need that E. Elle est sortie. Nous sommes sortis. Vous êtes sortis. Elles sont sorties. Now you'll notice it sounds exactly the same. And that's exactly how it is supposed to be. These E's and S's don't make sounds in French, but they do indicate gender in written discourse. And so it's important that you do include them as you are writing. And it's easiest to include them while you're writing if this is how you're thinking about these words as well. One important thing to note with vous is there's some ambiguity there, right? So because vous can be singular formal or plural, you can or cannot have an S depending upon your intended meaning. Make sure whatever it is, it agrees with your intended meaning. So if you're talking about me and I am vous for you, I would only need an E. If you're talking about the chancellor of the university and he is vous, he wouldn't need an E or an S. But if I'm talking about all y'all in my class, I would need both an E and an S. So these are just details that will fall into place the more you see this form and the more you're able to practice this form. Don't forget to read and then go enjoy the quiz. I look forward to seeing you in class. Have a good day.